Hey, good evening and welcome to Meteorology Lab. Looking at a quiet evening here in Texas and across much of the South. And let's head to the charts, and not much to look at outside, just pretty much fair skies out there. The charts, however, are looking like this. You can see the southerly flow starting to pick up down south, and if you actually look at the isobars, we're starting to pull a few of those lines close to South Texas, and pretty soon that will be spreading up the coast, which will indicate that the Gulf is open. We're not quite there yet. Let's put up the plots, and we can see that the dew points are still only in the 50s there in South Texas. We have to go all the way down to Brownsville and Port Aransas to get to the 60s. But tonight is when things will be changing. The moisture will be coming north with this southerly flow, and you can see the dry line is already starting to become established out across West Texas there. You can see that wind flow coming together pretty good there. So if we have a little bit more moisture, let's see, tomorrow's Thursday. It's going to be kind of iffy as far as storms, but likely on Friday things are going to be in place. April 11th is the 53rd anniversary of the Palm Sunday tornadoes there, and there's the famous double tornado there. I think that is in central Indiana there, and I figure we can take a look at the data there. So let me load this up here. I've got some historical data. This is from the Global Archive set that I have, and I'm going to load up the 18Z data for that afternoon. So this is going to be about noon or 1 o'clock on the Palm Sunday date. Okay, we'll erase the chart and take a look at history here. Big old low there in Iowa. And let's bring up the plots there. So there's the situation there before that big outbreak. So usually the first thing that you're going to look at on here is the dew points. We can see 69 there at Blytheville, 67 at Nashville, 65 at Evansville, 60 at Indianapolis there, so lots of rich moisture flowing northward. The 60-degree isodrosotherm is going to be running something like that right there, and then 65, we're going to find that about like that. So that paints out things pretty well there. And there's even a 70 down there in Arkansas. So I think on this particular date, we've probably got a dry line. It's kind of rare that they get out that far east, but I might be looking at the possibility of something like that, especially with that 35-degree dew point. And I don't think we quite hit the Pacific air mass maybe until we get a little further west. I'm going to probably run something like that somewhere in here, southwestern Minnesota and southern Oklahoma there. And then, of course, the warm front. Let's find that real quick. 82 at Little Rock, 79 Blytheville, 85 at St. Louis, 78. That's pretty. And then we get down to 68 at Indianapolis. So big temperature drop in this area here. So it looks like we've got good justification to put a warm front right there. And as we've been mentioning all spring, warm front usually signifies some severe weather there. So this is the warm sector. There's our Bear Clinic low there in Indiana. So we're probably looking at some of the best probabilities starting out the day roughly in this area here. And the actual tornado distribution ran about something, yeah, about something like that right there. In Indiana, Ohio was especially hard hit, parts of Michigan too, the western Chicago suburbs, and there were a few tornadoes also in Wisconsin there. So that pretty much lines out really good ahead of that warm front. So again, for those just joining, this is the Palm Sunday date, 1965, April 11th. And while we're at it, we can show you the upper level chart for that date. So we're going to pull down the upper level data. I'm going to look at the morning data. And we'll just look quickly at the upper air in the 850. 250 millibars, going to be looking like that right there. Looks like 110, 120 knot winds, pretty widespread across the Midwest. Polar front jet well to the south, so there's a pretty good digging trough out over the Four Corners area. And let's go to 850 here. What I've done here for the dew point slot, I've actually used dew point instead of dew point depression. So anywhere that's around 10 is going to be 50 and above. Looks like pretty good moisture there in Ohio. The moisture does appear either a little bit weak or a little bit shallow through this area here. 925 millibar upper chart would be helpful. But let's look at the soundings. Again, this is Palm Sunday, 1965, and I'm going to go to Dayton, Ohio. And that does show that the moisture, at least there, is a little bit on the shallow side, maybe up to about 3,000 to 4,000 feet. Looks like the upper level lift has not quite arrived in that area yet, which is not surprising. Usually that progresses west to east. And let me try Nashville. Nashville pretty well capped there. Moisture also a little bit shallow. You can see the 850 millibar kind of intersects the transition zone. So best moisture just below the 850 millibar level. And it would really be helpful to have more coverage. You can see there's pretty much nothing between Springfield and Nashville. This is kind of a big gap. Pretty similar to what we have in Texas these days in this area. Look at that, a sounding in San Antonio. That would really be a miracle if we had that these days. Time to head to the current data. So let's get back into the current weather. I meant to look at a little bit of this, the mesoanalysis graphics from SPC. They've got a national sector, and we can start with a little bit of that. So this is showing the high pressure across the southeast U.S. there. The southerly flow starting to come up, so this is like day one of the moisture return here. And let's look at the theta E. We looked at that yesterday. Let's see how that compares. So starting to come up from the Big Bend area, Sanderson, Langtree, coming up towards Midland. So Midland is getting some of the first moisture right now. And we should see the rest of it start to come up tonight. All right, heading to the isobars and thickness. So we're kind of doing our top-down approach here. Looks like we've got a lot of weather on the west coast there. Lots of thickness lines there. And we're looking at probably a cold front working down the central coast, somewhat like that there. And then on the plains itself, somewhere around Texas, Oklahoma, it's like a warm front in there, and that connects back up to that system. Lots of cold air up in the Hudson Bay region. So the Hudson Bay vortex still trying to hang on, but due to all the cyclogenesis here, that should push that to the southeast there. Heading to the upper charts, let's look at the jet stream winds. This is 250 millibars up at about 34,000 feet. Polar front jet has shown a little bit of ridging. A little bit of that ridging building in there, kind of pushing the jet stream pattern a little bit further north. So Texas is coming under the influence of that ridge. Winds are dying down actually a little bit around El Paso and Midland there. And then we'll check things out at 850. And again, this does have the dew point temperatures rather than dew point depression. So we've got mid-40s coming up through Del Rio at 850, and looks like the air down in Brownsville, you can see we've got minus 22, minus 26, so it's still very dry there at 850, and let's show that to you on the sounding. So this is another way of looking at it there. The 850 millibar level is right there, bone dry there. The moisture is kind of shallow in that region. So we've got to kind of pay attention to moisture depth with this particular moisture return. And let's see, anything else we want to show on that? I think that's pretty much it. But there's that shot of cold air up there trying to head southeast towards the Great Lakes. Okay, we'll head to the satellite and check in on chat, see how things are looking there. So there's the big picture. Looks like a lot of warm air across the southwest there with that ridging building in. A lot of violet showing there earlier today. So things are definitely warming up. Okay, let's see here. Let me move the mic a bit so I can get that out of my way. Okay, Ron Chalfant reporting 61 in the San Bernardino Mountains, which is it's going to be northeast of LA there. Clear skies, very windy. David Moore looking for 98 degrees there in northwest Texas. Ryan joining us says the damage assessments from yesterday's Florida storms confirmed 2 EF0 tornadoes. But today is better, lower 80s there in Florida, but the weekend looking explosive for Friday. Erica Baker reporting Coffeyville, Kansas, gusting up to 30 knots there. Or is it miles an hour? Pretty close. Red flag warning tomorrow. Ryan mentioning the water spouts off of Fort Lauderdale. We have fun with tech and Sue Ann, Mike Estwick, and Christian Flock joining us from Yukon. A windy day. Okay, Yukon, that must be Oklahoma there. Mike Estwick says, like button, subscribe, and check out Tim's books. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. We can definitely use the orders there. Adam Davis reporting he never thought he would be so happy for 48 degrees there and sunny skies. Jeff Krob there, wind grids, upper 70s in Maryland, so warming up there on the East Coast. Adam Davis mentioning Palm Sunday there. Meg and John did a weather discussion on Shreveport for the next week and discussed their severe weather setup. Looking strong so far, driven by that expected dry line. Analog match for Friday? No, not really. I don't think we're looking at anything like that, but I mentioned Palm Sunday because today is April 11th. And Sarah Wood chiming in on Palm Sunday that happened in Elkhart County in northern Indiana. And let me just go quickly through the rest of the messages here. Megan John, currently a mild 43 in Minnesota. Rick McAllister enjoying this QT book. Trish Ann Lou asking about central Wisconsin. We'll take a look at that later. Hopefully I can remember that. And very good. That wraps up the chat for now there. Anyway, you've had a good look at the satellite imagery, and you can see that outgoing system there on the East Coast. You can see that S shape on the back side of the system, indicating that this is not just subtropical moisture, but that's actually a baroclinic system there. This, however, this looks like some subtropical moisture, and that's on top of that ridge there. And then the actual polar front jet action, that's going to be up in this region here. And we can take another look at it with goes west. And there it is. We can see that powerful system coming onto the California coast. Looks like San Francisco is going to be improving here tonight, but the central California region getting some showers with that segment of the Pineapple Express there. And I did have a visible imagery. I just wanted to see what would come up with this. Looks like some Lee cirrus, just downslope from the mountains around Las Vegas, New Mexico, giving a little bit of overcast cirrus out from Clayton to Dodge City and almost all the way up to Great Bend, Kansas. But yeah, other than that, not a whole lot going on. And then you go out to the west and we pick up the instability with that system coming onshore. So a lot of cumuliform clouds and cirrus. And when you get way offshore, we pick out a huge field of unstable towering cumulus and mini cumulonimbus offshore. That's due to the strong mid-level cold air advection out in that region. All right, so I think everybody's probably wondering about prospects later in the week, so let's go ahead and head to that. There's not a whole lot of weather going on, so this will be kind of a short one. So we'll start out with the NAM. And let's see how things look for tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday, so we're going to be under that south flow, and you can see the isobars starting to stack all the way up the coast there. So we're opening up the Gulf. The moisture is heading north, and somewhere in here the dry line is setting up. It looks like the cold front is coming across the Rockies, likely somewhere in this area right here. And then the warm front, it looks like that's lifted pretty well to the north, and one segment of it in the Denver area right there. And then towards evening, not much change. You can see the thermal ridging building across West Texas there. Very warm day for that region. Temperatures probably approaching 100 in some spots. And then towards morning, we can see that cold front coming out of the Rockies, coming into West Texas there. So we're starting to set things up for Friday. Around midday, things will be looking like this. The NAM has got the cold front somewhere just west of I-35 there. The dry line is going to be mixed in there somewhere. So that cold front will be approaching the dry line and basically occluding it. And then we have a warm front way up to the north. Likely a very warm day in Illinois, Indiana, and parts of the Ohio Valley. And you can see this huge area of wraparound. And also this is due to the ascent on the north side of that surface system. So we're going to be seeing a pretty good precipitation field back there, and further up north some of that is going to be snow. Later on during the afternoon, the cold front and dry line will be pushing eastward, probably east of I-35, and we're going to see some storms going up, anywhere from probably about Tyler up to Fort Smith, maybe up to Springfield. I wouldn't take the precip here as gospel. There's probably going to be a lot of changes between now and then, but I think we're going to be looking at probably some watch boxes anywhere from Louisiana to East Texas all the way up to Missouri and Kansas. Things will be moving eastward overnight, and a bit of an MCS moving through Arkansas and Louisiana. There's been pretty good agreement on that with the models. And then up in the Great Lakes, yeah, a lot of snow up in that region. Looks like some sleet from about Green Bay back towards Minneapolis. And north of there, that's where the snow is going to be. Then things will move eastward during the day on Saturday. Storms look kind of disorganized in that region around Mississippi and New Orleans. Cold front will be roughly like that. Warm front in Ohio and Indiana there. And I think the precip field getting decoupled a little bit from the Gulf moisture. So we're seeing the precip start to die off up to the north there. And that's how things look with that NAM there. And yeah, we'll check out the upper level dynamics. So we've got pretty much a flat ridge there. We've got a shortwave moving through that ridge, which is flattening it out. We talked about that last night there. So that's going to be emerging on the other side tomorrow and Friday. So that'll probably add to some of the clouds and maybe a few showers there in the Great Lakes region. And then we've got our troughing coming in from California there. So that'll be crossing the Rockies Thursday night. And then by Friday morning, It'll be emerging into West Texas and eastern New Mexico there. So some pretty good lift associated with that. And the polar front jet is going to be running something like that there for Friday morning. And then by evening, that jet will be across Dallas and Del Rio and all the way up towards Missouri. That'll help to organize the storms. And let's see if we can pull up a sounding. I'm going to back this up just a little bit to account. I want to try to get the air mass on the east side of that dry line. So I'm going to pull up Paris, Texas there. So this is the NAM forecast sounding. So this has given us an idea of how deep the moisture is. It's almost all the way up to 850, but not quite. And we're showing a little bit of a cap there. In fact, that's a little more cap than what I saw yesterday. There's definitely enough shear there for rotating storms, 0 through 1 kilometer shear vector, about a good 25 knots there, and that's due to that low-level jet there. You can see the winds on this photograph showing 40 knots out of the southwest there. And that's basically what this is right there. So that kind of shows you how critical the low-level jet is on these storm outbreaks. And let me take another data sample, 21Z. I'm going to take this up to maybe eastern Oklahoma. And we'll probably try to take a more detailed look at this tomorrow, because by tomorrow it should be well within the range of accurate hours for the NAM there. This is still like 50 hours out, so we're not going to have a good handle on the mesoscale details. But there's the cap right there, centered at about 750 millibars. Some dry air there, and this is actually indicating that we may have some cirrus, some mid-level clouds, possibly interfering with heating. Let me get a good look at that upper-level moisture. Let me see if I can pull up these charts. I'm going to go up to 500 millibars. Yeah, these humidity charts remind me of forecasting the eclipse. I was looking at a lot of these. So let's bring this up. There's Thursday morning. There's Thursday evening, and yeah, we're bringing some moisture northward from Mexico. There's Friday morning. This is 18,000 feet, 500 millibars. And then by afternoon, yeah, we are going to be seeing, looks like some cirrus there. Maybe a little bit of heating there on the backside. This is a dry slot, and it looks like it'll probably remain fairly clear, I think. Let me check 250 millibars. I want to see just how much heating is going to be back there in that dry slot. Okay, there's Friday morning, and then Friday afternoon. So probably some cloud problems, maybe south of Dallas, but it looks like further north there should be some pretty good heating behind that dry line. Oklahoma City, Wichita, and adjacent areas along I-35 should be pretty clear there. Okay, so anyway, we know that's going to be a factor that may limit the heating, and if that happens, we would be looking at kind of a late start and a little bit more linear nature to that convection. So we'll check that out in detail tomorrow. Okay, and then we'll wrap it up with the GFS here. So running things forward. There's that open gulf there, bringing up the moisture. In fact, we should look at the dew point. I think this might be better to do our forecast with, so let's do this. Okay, here comes our moist assureds. 60s coming up to the Gulf Coast overnight, and then spreading rapidly northward The advection by the low-level jet really helping to bring that moisture north. So by 18Z, we'll be looking like this, and by the evening weathercast, you can see we've got that warm front up to the north. Looks like somewhere out west, the cold front is moving through the Four Corners area. And then our dry line, the dew point field, really helps us to establish where that is. So that'll be east of the Cap Rock, triple point up north of Russell, Kansas, and then the dry line extending down through Altus, Abilene, and Del Rio. Then for Friday midday, this is going to be the setup here. And indeed, it looks like the models are backing up a little bit. They're slowing down. Earlier, we had noticed that the GFS was running really fast. The European was a little bit slow, and we were kind of biasing towards that slow solution, and I think that's indeed what we're looking at. By midday, looks like a dry line right through the DFW area down to San Antonio. So remember, there's probably going to be some cloud problems south of I-20. Up to the north, there should be some good heating around Oklahoma City, Ardmore, and that might help with storm initiation along the Red River. Then by evening, looks like things move eastward to around Idabel, Tyler, and east of Waco. So some chances for storms there, and the cold front should be starting to catch up to the dry line about this point. And then overnight, looks like we've probably got an MCS through Arkansas and Louisiana. Then the activity moves eastward into Alabama and Mississippi. And behind that, a lot of cold air coming southward. 1040 millibar high up there in Hudson Bay, helping to provide the source for all that cold air, in that it will shut us down to about midweek. The moisture comes northward on Wednesday next week. And with the next front coming south, we're going to be looking at rain chances going up around Wednesday into Thursday there for Texas. Moisture hangs on through the end of next week, and then we're looking at pressure falls out in the Rockies there. And where's the next system? There it is. Strong westerlies coming in. This looks like a possible severe weather day here around the weekend. Friday going into Saturday, 20th to the 21st. So this might be, I would say, probably along the Cap Rock, maybe back towards Amarillo and Lubbock. And then the next day on Saturday, looks like we kick that front and dry line eastward. So this is going to be more like storms around, again, Fort Smith and Tyler and Shreveport and Missouri and Arkansas. And that moves eastward pretty quickly. Moisture comes back for another go for late in the week, 27th, 28th. But this is 380 hours out, so we're going to have to wait and see on that. That's very, very far out there for springtime. I did want to see what kind of temperatures are going to be coming in behind that system. Okay, running this forward, this is where all the cold air is over the weekend, and that's going to advect southward. And then later during the day on Saturday, we've got 20s in Minneapolis all the way down to Omaha, 40s all the way down to Kansas and Missouri, and then 50s all the way down to Little Rock and almost to Dallas. And then for Sunday, it should be also pretty cold. Yeah, more 40s and 50s, especially for Missouri, Arkansas, and parts of the Midwest there. And then things should warm up pretty good after that. So it looks like around Tuesday or Wednesday, the temperatures will be back up once again, and we'll be looking at another severe weather outbreak coming up. And I think that's about all I got here. Let me take one last look at chat. Mike Estwick listening to Raging Nature Tornadoes on the Weather Channel. Very good. And Ryan Toomey says dry line looks incredible lining up Friday. Yeah, if we are looking at severe weather Friday, I'm probably going to start the webcast early, and we'll do some hand analysis once again. Last week we kind of worked out the bugs on that, and I think that worked out pretty well. And Jeff Krob saying it's looking to stay cool out there in Maryland for the next week or two. So, yeah, we shall see. All right, anyway, that's about all I got for tonight. I appreciate you all watching the webcast, and check back in tomorrow, and we'll see how things look for that severe weather outbreak on Friday. Have a good evening, everybody. We'll see you.